close to the speaker.
Feedback.
Just making sure that we're recording, which we are, I believe.
Are we live?
We are live. All right. Let's get going, folks. I know it's a beautiful evening out there, and I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate everybody coming. For those of you that I have not met, my name is Lisa Branner. I am the Community Relations Manager for the town of Silverton. I'm going to try to avoid the sunlight. We are actually recording this meeting tonight. We'll be posting it on the town's website so that other folks in the community who couldn't make it will be able to watch and be tuned into what's going on. So that's why we're using the mic. And we are here tonight to talk about Silverton area trails. This is the second in a series of meetings that the town of Silverton is putting on to discuss trails in the Silverton area. So why are we here? We recently went through a process of visioning for Kendall Mountain Recreation Area. So this building, this lovely building we're all sitting in, the ski hill just behind us. And one of the things that came up repeatedly in that visioning was trails as a priority for the community. So that obviously is a much broader topic than just for Kendall Mountain. And it's something that the community values. So that combined with the fact that there is a Silverton area trails plan from 2004. It's been over 10 years since that was created. It's about time for an update. So that's needing to happen. And then it also just so happens that the BLM and the Forest Service are both working on some planning that this can dovetail with. So BLM has a travel management plan that is going to kick into action coming up here soon. And the Columbine Ranger District, which is one of several in the area, is going to be working on their recreation plan. So all of these things can kind of work together. Why outdoor recreation? Well, there's a couple different reasons here. This is a huge economic driver, not just for the state of Colorado, but nationwide. The outdoor recreation industry is $373 billion a year, 2% of the GDP. So not something to sneeze at. And the outdoor recreation industry is currently said to be growing at a rate of 3.8%. So obviously Silverton is a hub for recreation. We already have it going on here. The question is, how can we continue to build on that for greater economic development and economic impact in our community? So in Colorado specifically, the outdoor rec industry generates $28 billion a year in consumer spending. You can see here $9.7 billion in wages and salaries, the number of jobs. This is something that the governor of Colorado has prioritized, and it's something that we as a community, I think, should also be prioritizing. And in Town Hall, we've been talking a lot about that. Trails is one way to do that. So other benefits besides the economics, obviously, health and exercise, the quality of life for community members, property values go up, it's good for tourism. We know right now that's our main economic driver in this community. So there are a lot of other pluses to outdoor rec besides just the dollars and cents. And the Outdoor Industry Association identifies these activities as part of the outdoor rec economy. So it's camping, fishing, hunting, motorcycling, off-roading, snow and trail sports, water sports, wheel sports, and wildlife viewing. So that's kind of the big picture, and we'll be talking about a handful of those through this process. Speaking of the process, so we're working right now on data collection and compiling that information. So the first visioning session was very focused on gathering information from community members. We'll be completing that process tonight. From there, we're going to move on to identifying and prioritizing the top projects that we as a community want to work on. And from there, we'll go into a draft plan, fine-tune that, and our goal is to have a final plan that we can present to the town council and our county commissioners and get that adopted by our local governments. And then our federal agencies can also utilize that in their planning processes. So our strategy is, and there's a typo there. I saw that earlier and I didn't correct it. We're actually wanting to go from the macro to the micro. So we're looking at the big picture right now, and then we're going to drill down to detail. And because implementing trails plans takes a good amount of time, you know, the previous plan from 2004 had about 9 projects identified in it. I don't know that very many of them actually came to fruition. It's costly and it's time consuming. We want to look at prioritizing quality over quantity. We're not going to build out every single trail we possibly could in San Juan County and the Silverton area. We're going to look at what it makes the most sense and what is most important to the community. As you all well know, there are a lot of trails already existing here. They maybe just need to be buffed out. They maybe need to be connected so that we can have more of a network. So those will be some of our focal points moving forward through this process. To recap the first session, that was in February. We had about 35 community members here. Our goal was information sharing, cataloging existing trails, and identifying stakeholders. And we had some short presentations from representatives of the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service. Anthony Edwards also did a presentation about the legal aspects of trail building. The meeting was recorded, so if you were not able to attend and you want to hear what was said and get up to speed, that is all on the town's website. There is also Anthony's presentation available on the town's website. There's a link called Community Visioning. So if you go to the town's website, click on that. It has information about this process as well as the one that we're doing for Kendall. So the results, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at tonight, is the results of that first session, and then also adding to or cleaning up those results. There's definitely some things that just when you look at the aerial, you know, satellite imagery don't quite match up. So we're wanting to get really clear data, because the better our data is, the better our plan will be in the end. And I'm actually going to turn the mic over at this time to Emily Thorne, who has been working with us on actually putting the information we gathered into a GIS layer that we're going to be looking at later tonight.
Good night, or good evening. Hi. So my colleague Kathy Kroll and I have been working on compiling basically everything we can find on trails, including what you all identified at the last meeting. So we got information from the Forest Service and the BLM and put those into a layer. We parsed out roads that where motorized travel is allowed versus where it's only pedestrian or horse travel or bike travel. We then hand digitalized in many cases and tried to find data, already existing data, Google Earth data, for trails that were not identified by the BLM or the Forest Service in their data layers. Then we did our best using topo maps and imagery. And as Lisa said, sometimes the line we drew didn't necessarily line up with reality. So that's kind of the stage that we're in right now. And hopefully maybe you guys can help us with a little bit too. And then lastly, what we've been doing, what I spent most of my day actually doing today, is going through and looking closely at the aerials and seeing if trails or mining roads appear in the aerials that were not identified either on the official data layers that we got from the government or on other maps. So we also actually looked at various other maps, the Drake map, National Geographic maps, several others. We had some trail guidebooks. We had the Hard Rock course that we pulled, a KMZ, an outdated KMZ, I'm told, but nonetheless. So that's where we're at. So hopefully tonight we can get some input, feedback on that. We'll have the maps around the room and then also the Google Earth on 2 computers up here. Feedback from you guys on that, and just make sure that we're getting what we need to get and getting it laid out as accurately as we can. So.
Awesome, thank you, Emily. So, moving on from there, our goals for tonight, as I mentioned just before, our final plan is only going to be as good as the data we collect. So we're looking to build on the previous efforts and ask ourselves the question of what did we miss? Are there pieces of trail that we did not record the last time around, and also make corrections to things that are not accurate. And before we move forward with the group activity, which is going to be the majority of our time tonight, those of you that have been envisioning sessions with me before know that I always like to lay out some ground rules about how we participate. So let's try first and foremost to remember that we are all members of the same community, and when we get really passionate about things, sometimes that doesn't manifest in the greatest way, and we're trying to keep it friendly and community-minded tonight. So as you guys are doing group work, I want you to remember that we're deferring judgment. There are no wrong answers. We're going to have one conversation at a time. When we get together as a group, we want only one person speaking at a time so everybody gets a chance to be heard. Keep community at heart, and let's remember the common ground here, which is that we're all interested in seeing this community flourish. So that being said, I am going to turn the mic over to Louis Feinberg, our town manager, and he's going to talk with you a little bit about the mapping exercise.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you all for coming tonight. I was starting to get really excited about this process when we started looking at the trails layer on Google Earth and kind of zooming in and seeing what was going on. And being new here, I certainly learned a lot about the surrounding trail system that we have, and we do have quite an extensive one already. One of the things I did notice is that there are some examples of trails that certainly I know exist that didn't make their way onto the map, and also examples of trails that made their way onto the map that don't really exist. So we have those two things: trails that didn't make it onto the map and trails that made it onto the map that don't really exist. So like Lisa said, those are the things we'd like to find tonight and make sure that the data layer that we end up with is a really solid one, so when we launch into the planning phase of this, we have a good platform to start from. So, having said that, what we'd like you to do is, when you're looking at these maps, is to see if anything jumps out at you as being an error, and marking it in one of two ways. So if there's a trail out there that didn't find its way onto the map, and you know where that is, we want you to mark that with a solid black line here. If it's a trail that thank you, Lisa. You can bring out the prizes in a minute. If it's a trail that is showing as being on the map but is not really there, then we want you to cross that out with the red pen in that fashion right there. So those are the two types of marks. We don't want any other marks other than either a solid black line or a red line that's crossed like that. We have the Google Earth stations here, so if you see something and you're not quite sure, you can go bring that area, zoom in on it in Google Earth, and you can ground truth a little bit that way. So having said that, I don't think there's much need to talk further. Do you have anything else you need to? Okay.
Okay, so just want to clarify one thing. Yes, we want to delete the trails right now that don't exist. We will be putting them back on the map later. In our next meeting, we'll be focusing on the ideas for what we want to see going forward. But we just want to get that base layer right now of what does exist, not the pie in the sky of what we'd like to see. That'll come later. So, thus the red marks. The other thing I want to explain to you is just how this process is going to work. Those of you that were at the last meeting are familiar with this. We're going to count off 1 through 4, and then depending upon your number, you're going to get into a group with the people with the same numbers, and you're going to take a turn at each station about 15 minutes. Louis and Emily will be able to man the Google Earth station up here if you have a question. You see something that's inaccurate and you want to dig deeper in that. They can deal with you one at a time at the Google Earth station, which is right here up at the front. Does anybody have questions about how that process is going to work? Okay. I will mention as well, there are sticky notes if you do have other comments or things that you want to put on there. So feel free to make notes on those and stick them on the maps. So, did I cover it all?
I think you did.
All right. So, Emily, I'm going to exclude you from the counting. Let's start over here. You're number 1. That's okay. I think it's a great experience for all community members and anybody that wants to plug in to just hear what other folks are saying and be part of the conversation. So.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So, raise your hand if you're a number 1. Number 2s, number 3s, number 4s. Did anybody forget their number already? No? Okay, great. So let's have the number 1s cluster over here in this front corner. We'll put number 2s in the back over there, number 3s in that back corner, and number 4s up here at the front. Lewis and I will float around if you have questions. And we will be timing you. I'll give you a warning when we're getting close to needing to move on. So get with your groups, take a look at the maps, and look for inconsistencies. Good to see you, Dale. How are you? Good. All right, so we just had a question from one of the groups asking about the trails represented on these maps. Are they different colors? Yes, they are. There is a key on every map that tells you what the color means, whether it is a systems trail, a non-systems trail, motorized or non-motorized. It should all be indicated in that key. All right, we've got 6 minutes left at the current station. Does anyone have questions that they would like to address at the Google Earth station in the front? No? Questions for Emily at the Google Earth station up front?
we established the elevation we're at, we're looking down.
So like it's been since the morning.
That's because I have this turned
Like you can rise
Now, let's take a look at this. Here's what I'm The lake is at 16,000, 16,000. So Rudolph's flags going and not only that, this mountain is called Silverton.
Okay, a couple more minutes at your current station. The sun is making it rain. All right, folks, finish up your work. We're going to get ready to rotate. Take another 30 seconds or so. All right, pens down. Let's rotate clockwise. So group number 1 is coming to this back corner. 2 is switching corners in the back. 3 is taking the front corner. Lather, rinse, and repeat at your new station.
And they tell us that. They tell us this is how we ride. And you listen so get out of the way. Moving on to the loss of snowmobiles, snow bikes, OH trains, dirt bikes. Now it's getting that trying to dominate they are expanding reach
And then you can kind of put your numbers fine. Go ahead and we're doing the same thing. Where's your last one? Okay, so basically what we're doing is each about a map that has the data that's been collected from the community, from BLM and US Forest Service, from books, from maps, from anything we can get our hands on. And we're looking for two things. If there's existing stuff that's still not on these maps, we want to mark it with a black line. And if there's stuff that people put on there that actually doesn't exist yet, they got to remove these hours and put stuff they wanted to see that doesn't actually exist. We need that marked with red. And the next meeting, so the next meeting we'll actually talk about what we want to see that doesn't exist yet. But right now we're just trying to get the baseline foundation of what exists. So second station. So wherever you start,
So there's another option too. I could take a draconian
If you have questions about anything you are seeing on your maps, feel free to go visit with Emily in the front. She can ground truth it for you. You have about 6 minutes.
They actually stretch out a bit. What if it's being minus stuff?
Right, exactly. Because, yeah, I can't tell you how many times, like in the last 2 years, I've had to send stuff back and forth. And they're smaller, and it's not like consistently it goes one way or the other.
No, it's just $10 a pop, send it back, you don't have that today, or
I'm like, I should just be ordering the 450 size. And turn my full-time in the position that I am able to connect to all those places. At least initially. And kind of monitor how much I participate. So that's the one.
Show you things and try to get work done. Make sure you just put Mike Kelly's Brian Orville tomorrow with the city events. He's the one that's put on that talk that I invited you to like on.
Right.
If you have any questions about stuff going on.
Yeah. Oh, people seem engaged. All right, we've got about 3 minutes left at your current station. All right, you've got 30 seconds. Finish up what you're working on.
They're getting sucked into.
All right, folks, time to change stations, please. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, how about you?
Great.
Okay, so you know the drill. Marking on the map. What we got tonight is we've compiled everything from that session plus the media lab maps of like anything you get our hands on and put it on these maps. Number one is this trail that is not ready there, and there's been a few things picked out. We won't have the black part. If it's something that's somebody put on there that actually doesn't really exist yet, and they see better results, like what they want to see, we're not there yet. We'll find it what actually exists. Like Mario did something else. I don't know how many times it's used. So you may want to kind of and get around this option. We got about 6 minutes left, which means and then we're going to do like 15 minutes. We'll probably have them in town hall for a little while. All right, folks, you got about 6 minutes. If you have questions, you can go visit with Emily in the front of the room. She can pull up Google Earth for you.
been more, much more.
Just about 3 minutes left at your current station, and then we'll do our final switch.
Now we just leave.
You've got a little over a minute. Go ahead and make your final marks. All right, folks, time is up. We're going to rotate. I think this is the final rotation, yes? So go ahead and rotate to your last station. If you see anything you have questions about, remember you can come up and see Emily in the front. She can pull up Google Earth and take a better look at it for you.
Somebody's got to keep it lively. It's not fun to behave. No, no. It's not fun to behave.
I'll tell you the whole story sometime.
I want to hear that story.
All right, we've got 1 minute left at your current station. So go ahead and finish up what you're working on. All right, finish up what you're working on, and let's have you all return to your seats, please.
Yeah, I think we're about done. I'm going to ask folks if they have any other questions about stuff they were looking at before we move on, but then we're just going to wrap up.
I was blocking the right one.
Sorry about that.
All right, let's go ahead and take our seats, please. All right, did anybody have questions that they did not get resolved before we move on?
I know, I don't have it on slideshow.
All right, I'm not hearing any questions out there in the audience. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Our next steps, these maps are going to be at Town Hall for about a week. If there's anything you think of after the fact, or if there are community members that you know of that were not able to join us tonight that might like to take a look at them, let them know. We'll have them on display in Town Hall, so come see us during normal business hours. From there, we're going to compile the additional data that we received, and then ultimately what I'd like to see happen is actually have the Google Earth files available for you guys to look at on the town's website. We'll be posting this video to the website. And then our third visioning session is happening June 19th, 6 p.m. right here at Kendall. And at that point, we'll start looking toward the future and talking about what might be missing, what we want to add. And maybe starting to prioritize. That's where it's going to get really exciting and potentially contentious. I hope not. So yeah, that's what we have for you guys tonight. I really appreciate everybody's time and effort. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy week. And yeah, feel free to touch base with me or anybody at Town Hall if you have any questions between now and the next visioning session, and we'll be getting the word out in the paper, social media, etc. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you and have a great night. I see a hand.
Do you want any suggestions this evening, or is that for the visioning session? Should that be held for the visioning?
We're looking at doing that the next one, so June 19th. If you are not able to join us, you can feel free to share those thoughts with us tonight, or you can email them in, give us a call, stop in town hall. We definitely want to hear from folks and want to be as accommodating as possible. So you can come chat with us before you take off this evening if you like. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you June 19th. And if you wouldn't mind helping stack chairs and get them in the closet, you'd be my best friend forever.
yeah, I'll work on this. This is touchy. Oh, it's fine. I just wanted to get this cord and I didn't want to drop it off the table in the process of trying to do that. Thank you for being here. As always, June 19th, you'll be hearing from me. That is the fun one. Yeah, awesome. That's going to be an important one, I think. We've been talking about, yeah, I can't figure out if that's just what it does or if I didn't turn it off correctly. Yeah, we've been talking about the strategy.
Is my face all over the internet right now? Just like
no, because the iPad is closed down.
We're not rushing the process at all. Everybody,